Why have confidence in an opinion when it could be wrong? Well, partly because it could be right. And that's why it's better to think about opinions as tools. Or maybe to dispense with opinions altogether, because who cares about your stupid opinion? But what you want is tools to work in the world, and you think, well, I have a tool and it might work. So like, let's say that you're going in to negotiate with someone. Well, your toolkit is the conceptual structure and the habits that you have that enable you to construe the situation and to conduct the negotiation. Well, you have to have confidence that your toolkit is appropriate, or you wouldn't go out there and test it. And you say, well, I might be wrong. It's like, yeah, but you're not going to learn if you're wrong unless you go out there and test it. So you have to have provisional. Look, let's say that you're using a hammer to hammer in a nail. And you think, well, am I going to hit the nail? Well, you aim at the nail and you hit it, and you watch. And if you didn't hit it quite right, then you aim a little different, So you have enough confidence to swing the hammer, but that doesn't mean you're not paying attention to the outcome. So you want to have confidence. Maybe this is the best answer. You don't want to have confidence in the opinion exactly. You want to believe in the necessity of moving forward in the world with your limited toolkit, and also you want to make the vow, let's say, that as you implement your tools in the world, that you're going to pay attention to what happens and you're going to modify them as necessary as you move along. That's the adoption of the hero myth again, because that's, let's say your opinion is a little screwy, and so you lay it out in the world and you get responses that aren't positive. It's like you think, oh, okay, well, that didn't work out quite right. I'll go retool my opinion. And so you move out into the world not as a collection of opinions, but as a collection of tools, and as the process that can recast those tools. And then you think, well, it's not so much that I have confidence in my opinions. I know that they're necessary to express them, because sometimes they'll work, and if they don't work, then I can learn. And that's the recipe for forthright action in the world. Our daughter ended her life at 24 due to depression. If someone is determined to end their life, how can one change their mind? Oh, well, first of all, I'm very sorry about that. That's a terrible thing. Look, I had this friend. Sorry. There's been a lot of depression in our family, so it's a question that cuts close to the bone. Anyways, I had this friend, a friend of my parents, and her granddaughter committed suicide, She was just beating herself up about that. What could have I done? What could have I done differently? This is the problem with suicide. It leaves everybody behind thinking, oh my God, what could have I done? I could have treated the person better. I could have listened. I could have been there. It's like, and she was just beating herself up about this, really feeling that she wasn't a useful person, that she'd failed as a grandmother. She's a really good person, And so I went for a walk with her, and I said, and she's married, and she likes her husband, and he's a really good guy. And I said, look, you're blaming yourself for your granddaughter's suicide. It's like, are you blaming your husband? Are you sitting him down and telling him what a useless bastard he was as a grandfather because his granddaughter committed suicide and how he failed completely? She said, no, I'd never do that. So I said, well, don't do it to yourself. No. Depression is a terrible thing. And many, many, many things cause it, and we don't understand. We understand some of them, but lots of them we don't understand at all. Sometimes people get depressed because they're really sick. We know that depression can be an inflammatory disease. It might be associated with autoimmune dysfunction. There's lots of reasons that people get depressed, and depressed people can go places that are so dark you just cannot imagine it. And it isn't necessarily the case that you can always rescue someone, but drowning yourself in the aftermath of a suicide is not helpful. So there's a good room for self-forgiveness there. I mean, maybe you did some things you shouldn't have done that were reprehensible and all of that, but you don't want to beat yourself up. Remember the presumption of innocence, right? Innocent until proven guilty. And you have to apply that to yourself. I think there are times when people are so depressed that there isn't anything that anyone can do. And the depressed person thinks, and this is probably the worst part of it, the depressed person thinks, everywhere I look, it's nothing but catastrophe. And I can't see any way out of it. I can't see any path forward whatsoever. And then they think as well, and maybe it's the combination of these two thoughts that really make people suicidal. It's like, it's hopeless. It isn't going to get any better. No matter where I turn, there's no escape. The suffering is unbearable. And I'm absolutely no use whatsoever to anyone. It would be better for everyone if I was just gone, because if I'm not so much of a burden now that it's going to destroy their life, then I'm going to be that much of a burden in the future. And so it's hard to imagine what that's like for people, but it's dreadful. And there's lots of ways you get there. And so you can listen to people. You can desperately encourage them to seek the help they need. Like I've seen antidepressants work miracles on very, very many people. Now, they don't work for everyone, and they're not a panacea, but they have side effects and all of that. But one of the side effects of untreated depression is that you kill yourself, and there is no recovery from that. And the probability is actually rather high. So you can go to war with them about antidepressants. If the person can't get out of their depression and they're suicidal, it's like, what do they have to lose? 1 month on antidepressants. They'll know. Well, they might have to experiment longer, because it would depend on, some people respond better to some classes of antidepressants than the others. It's worth having a war with someone if they're in dire straits and they won't do everything they can to get better. ECT works, electroconvulsive therapy works for intractable depression. It's a terrible thing to contemplate, but the modern versions of ECT aren't. One flew over the cuckoo's nest. And again, it's like there's no coming back from death. So, look, it isn't clear. You can't rescue everyone. People get sick and they die. And sometimes the way they die looks like it's depression. Depression is a multifaceted phenomenon. You can be there for them. You can listen. You can watch. You can intervene. You can try to understand. You can hold them accountable. You can do all of those things. But everyone has their own destiny, and you're not omnipotent. And so sometimes a catastrophe occurs, like your daughter's. And then you should try to drag the least amount of misery forward that you can once you recover from your grief. Yeah. I'm going to answer one more question. Due to a recent incident, my company is making me undergo implicit bias training. How should I come to terms with my possible firing when I refuse? Look, there's no sense in burning yourself at the stake. If you're going to take a principled stance on something at work and you're going to refuse, you have to get your tools in order. You have to get your quiver full of arrows. What the hell good is it going to be for you just to get fired? Maybe you have a family that depends on you. That's not helpful. That doesn't mean I think you should be weak because you have a family. You should be stronger. I would say, is your resume in order? Is your CV in order? Is it updated? Have you sent out other job applications? Are you prepared? Do you have a lateral move? Like, this is a war, not a battle. And you don't want to lose. And so set yourself up and then make your case. And when you make your case, don't apologize, but don't do it carelessly. You need a lateral move, because otherwise you're too exposed. So, and if you're going to refuse, have your arguments at hand. Have them in writing. Make sure that you share them with the appropriate people. Don't make unnecessary enemies. and do yourself the least amount of harm possible. Now look, having said that, so you're going to, you're going to pay. You're either going to pay and you're going to go do a implicit bias training, and you're going to sell a bit of your soul to do that. Or you're going to pay because you're going to refuse and you're going to take that price. So you've got price to pay both ways. If you're going to refuse, do it intelligently. Do it programmatically. Do it philosophically. Do it strategically. Right? Stupid martyrdom is just stupid martyrdom. It's not helpful. So there may be people you need to talk to. There may need to be more than one of you. So you may need to make contact with the press. Like, you got to be strategic about this. You got to be intelligent about it. You don't want to just light yourself on fire and out of protest, because maybe there'll just be a pile of ashes that people sweep up and go on with their idiocy. So, all right, everyone. Nice talking with you all. Thank you for the questions. Come and see me if you want. If you go to Jorden Peterson, jordanbpeterson.com, you can see the upcoming events. They've been going real well. I'll talk about my book and about all the other things that I'm thinking about, or not all of them, but some of the other things that I'm thinking about. I try to make every talk different, even though, the outline is the same because I'm talking about my book. I guess that's about it. Thank you for all the Patreon support. I know it's been a little while since this last Q&A. That's life, I guess, at the moment. And I'll try to do one within the next month. I'm on the road a lot. I'll probably do it with my laptop. So what should I say in closing? Get your act together much as you can. There's things to do in the world. And it would be good if everyone was out there doing them. We'll see how we could beat this old globe back into some reasonable shape, or into better shape than it's ever been. That would be a lovely thing to do. So, goodbye for now.